Hi class! Today we are going to do some experiments on changing substance using heating and cooling methods. Now we all have to first understand the difference between a solid and a liquid. Do we know the difference? Let's see. What is a solid?
Hard.
Yes, exactly. This is solid. It can't be moved. You can't go through it. It's solid. Now let's talk about liquid. What do you think liquid is?
Juice.
Yes, exactly. Water, anything that moves, has movement. I can put my finger through it. There we go. Now, our first experiment is going to have to do with water. What happens if we heat up the water using a burner, or what happens if we put it into a freezer, which makes it ice cold? Let's find out. Now, as you see, the water is starting to get hotter, and that means that the water is starting to boil. Those are all the little bubbles that are forming right now. Let's wait and see. Oh, here it comes. It's starting to boil. With extreme heat, the water starts to boil. Vapor starts to rise. We'll learn about vapor next in our next class. As you can see also, as the vapor rises and the water bubbles, the water does not change its form. It is still a liquid with the vapor rising. Now let's see what happens when we cool it down. Now that the water has boiled and we have cooled it down to room temperature, it seems to just have come back to its original state. Just normal looking water. I can put my fingers through it, it moves, it's just a liquid coming back to its original state. Now, let's see what happens when we put it into extreme cool, like a freezer. I'm gonna put this bowl of water into the freezer, and in a few hours, we'll come back and check and see what happens. After we've left the water in the bowl, in the freezer for many hours, we come back to find the water has changed form. It is now a solid. We call this solid ice. Now let's see what happens if we leave this ice, this solid, out into room temperature. Do you think that it will go back to its original form, or do you think it's gonna stay ice forever no matter what? Let's find out. After a few hours of being left out in room temperature, the solid ice has in fact turned back to a liquid. I can put all my fingers through it, it moves. It's definitely back to its original state. Now, let's see if these kernels what they will do if I put them under extreme heat under this burner. I've added 3 tablespoons of these kernels into this pan, and now I'm going to turn on the heat. Cover it, and let's see if anything happens. You see it? Let's see. Wow! Those kernels completely changed form. They went from this to that with extreme heat. Now, let's wait a little while and see what happens, bringing it back to room temperature. It's back to room temperature. Seems to be that there's no change from when it was exposed to extreme heat. Tastes pretty good too. Let's see what happens if we put it in extreme cool, like a freezer. It's been a few hours, and I'm just waiting to see if that popcorn went back to kernels. Let's check it out. It did not go back to its original state. It stayed the same. So we took the popcorn kernels, we put it in extreme heat, and it popped up and turned into a completely different state, into popcorn that we could actually eat. We left it out, it didn't revert back to its original state, into the kernels. We even put it in the freezer, extreme cold. Took it out, it still stayed the same into the popcorn shape. It never reverted back into its original state. Now it's time for us to get started with our bump in the road. As you know, the bump in the road, you'll take out the index cards that I passed out earlier, and you'll write any questions or concerns that you had about any of the experiments. Then you'll get into your groups, go over all the questions that everyone has. If anyone in the group has the answers to the questions, that'd be great. Discuss it. Tell your peers what you think that the answer is. Once you guys have had full discussions over all of the bumps in the roads, all of the questions, then we'll get up, stand up, and announce to the class all the other questions that couldn't get answered by your peers.